In this second episode of our Communal Property Essentials series, I'm going to discuss what is a management committee, what's its purpose, who can be on it, who should not be on it, why it's so important, and what is its number one duty. In the last episode of the Communal Property Essentials series, I discussed the core subject, what is communal property, and who's responsible to manage and maintain it. If you missed that episode, you can find a link in the description below. Well, in that episode, I mentioned that it would be extremely difficult for every property owner to have a say on every small decision. So instead, each year, your building should elect a small group of owners to make these day-to-day decisions. This group is called the Management Committee. But if you've owned an apartment outside of Cyprus with some form of communal facility or space, you may also know this as a homeowners association, a residents association, or maybe even a condo board. But whatever you call it, it's effectively a group of people who are put in charge of the operation and maintenance of the shared parts of that building. The rules for management committees vary around the world, but in Cyprus they're responsible to coordinate the entire operation, maintenance and management of the shared parts of the building. This will include doing any admin, creating the budgets, collecting payments from property owners, organising the maintenance, repairs, dealing with suppliers, utilities and contractors and so on and so on. Most committees are made up of volunteer owners and sometimes tenants who donate their time and expertise free of charge. Now, I'm going to be honest, being on the committee can be very time consuming and can require a high level of knowledge and experience in accounting, maintenance, and maybe even project management, depending on what role each committee member is assigned. While they're volunteers, it must be kept in mind that this is not a committee for a bake sale or some one-off event at your local school. It's important to keep in mind that the members of the management committee are placed in charge of what is usually millions of euros of property. They're going to be responsible for managing large budgets, cash flow, general operations, and generally some quite challenging and frustrating situations. And they must do all of this while making sure that they don't accidentally fall foul of the many legal regulations on property in Cyprus. I can't really emphasise enough how important the decision is on who you should put into these trusted positions. Now, after I may have scared anyone thinking of joining their committee, being on the committee may have lots of challenges, but it also has one massive positive. You get to remain in control over your property. You get to guide the way the building is managed and safeguard your property investment. Think about it. If your hard work prevents your property value dropping 50% because the site was so poorly managed you can't get a buyer, then the time spent on the committee was worth it. The committee will be made up of volunteers and most likely they'll have limitations on their available time and they may not have the experience or training required to do every part of their role. So most committees will hire a professional communal property manager to deal with the day-to-day operations. This is all permitted under the regulations, and it's actually something that I suggest for any building where the committee doesn't have the time and or the experience to self-manage their buildings. Self-management is a viable option under the right circumstances. This is something I discuss quite a lot in my book and in my articles. Well, even when a property manager is hired, you also have to remember that the committee are still in ultimate charge of the building, and they're the only ones with the legal right to make a decision on behalf of the owners under the law. So by hiring a property manager, you're not giving up control. You're only asking for their help in the day-to-day tasks. Plus, if you hire a communal property specialist management provider rather than just a general property manager, they can also help you navigate the regulations and provide regular advice and support when you need it. Legally, you can't have a property manager if there's no committee in place, as unless they're working on behalf of the committee, a property manager doesn't have any legal powers under the property law to operate the building or collect the money. This isn't a black or white question that I can answer. Under the law, a committee must have at least one member and a maximum of 5. If your committee has 3 to 5 members, anyone can be elected by the property owners to be on the committee. This could be an owner, a tenant, a lawyer, or another former professional. As an example, I'm commonly requested by my clients if I can be on their committee as a consultant. This isn't a problem providing that any conflict of interest is removed. So, for example, in those committees, if I also provide management services, I wouldn't be permitted to be involved on any decision or discussion regarding the services my company provides. Okay, so that's the case if you have 3 to 5 members, but if you only have 1 or 2 people on your committee, then under the law they must both be property owners. It can be tempting to elect anybody who's willing to put their hand up, with the theory that any assistant is better than none. But ideally, anyone joining the committee will bring relevant skills or experience and have a vested interest in the success of the building. So you must try to avoid negative or argumentative people, along with anyone who only wishes to serve their own interests, even if it's at the expense of the property owners they're supposed to be representing. A unit owner who isn't paying their communal fees or is in arrears with their communal fees is not permitted to vote at any general meeting of owners. Now, the general meeting of owners is something that I will be covering in a later episode in this series. The law sets this rule to make sure that owners who are not fulfilling their legal obligations can't make decisions that will affect the building or decide where other unit owners' money is spent. So while a unit owner in arrears is not specifically excluded in the regulations from being on the committee, I do think it's unwise to vote them onto the management committee. But what do you think? Maybe you can come up with some circumstance where an owner in arrears should be voted onto the committee. If you feel that way, or maybe you've had experience of this and it worked out for you, let me know in the comments below. As I'm sure you can imagine, I deal with a huge number of management committees, and I've encountered many really good committee members and lots of really bad committee members who seem to always do everything possible to stop anything good from being done. You want a constructive, positive committee. So when you're looking for good candidates, look for positive owners with something to contribute. It is always best to have a specific position to fill with clear outlines of the expected role and responsibility of that committee member. So if you have somebody who's an accountant, they're going to be brilliant and ideally suited for a treasurer. A building contractor may be best suited as a maintenance project leader, and so on and so on. The committee are the most important part of your building and it should be protected. Sometimes you may think that it's a good idea for that pain in the behind owner to join the committee and see what you have to deal with the hope that they're going to get this moment of enlightenment and will all of a sudden realise that you were right all along. Unfortunately, in my experience, this rarely happens. Put simply, unreasonable people can't be reasoned with. What will more than likely happen is they'll continue to disrupt the committee at every stage, but from the inside rather than the outside, where they can do far more damage. Now, I know this sounds harsh, but this is possibly some of the best advice I can give you. You could have a single person who will join your committee that's so antagonistic, disruptive, argumentative, and negative at every stage that eventually, one by one, all of the good committee members resign in frustration. Then this negative member will fill the committee with people of a similar mindset, and within months can take a development from the best in the area to a near derelict site with empty bank accounts. If it sounds like I'm talking from experience, I am. And not just once. This is unfortunately commonplace. I'm actually quite often invited to help out developments who have gone through situations like this and actually try and get them to recover from it. I know many people watching this episode right now will probably be nodding their heads as I will have described what happened to their building. If you agree this is a bad idea, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. And if you don't agree and had a different experience, maybe letting that difficult owner on the committee, encouraging them to join the committee, turn them round and they become really constructive and helpful, let me know as well. I mean, honestly, I'd really love to hear that this is not always the case. We've covered what the management committee are and who can and should be on it. Now I need to say what, in my opinion, is the most important duty of the committee. And it may surprise you, but I think the most important duty of the committee is the setting of the budget. Most buildings set their budgets a year in advance, and if they calculate this budget incorrectly or don't sufficiently plan for the unexpected, a building can very quickly find itself in a cash crisis. This can result in the committee needing to cut service levels, skip important preventative or even emergency maintenance, or worse, they need to go back to the owners in the middle of the year asking for more money, which is really not going to be a nice task. So how can a committee make sure they set an accurate budget? Well, I'm going to cover that exact topic in the next episode of the Communal Property Essentials series. If you have a copy of the Ultimate Committee Handbook, you'll see that I dedicate a large section on how to set up a committee, who can and who should be on the committee, how to deal with conflict of interest, and generally how to increase the efficiency of the committee. I also go through what you can do if you have a dysfunctional committee or you suspect foul play. If you don't have a copy, I'll include a link in the description below where you can get one. If you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, you can click on the subscribe button below, and don't forget to hit that bell icon to make sure you're notified when new videos are released. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below. I do check these and will answer them. Also, we have a really good Facebook page and group, so look up Cyprus Communal Guide or check out the link in the description below. If you're watching this video on our Facebook page, please give this post a like and share if you found it useful. I'm Russell Flick from the Cyprus Communal Guide, where we help you unlock your building's true potential. Thank you for watching and see you next time.